Welcome back to the Formula First Full Tilt podcast. I'm your host, Kegun Morkin, here with my co-host, Cristian Agostini. And our first podcast went pretty well. We're pretty happy with that. We got some good feedback on it. So we're excited to be doing this weekly and getting this out for you guys. But so today we're going to talk a little bit about PDR or Paintless Dent Repair. The Barrett Jackson auction that just happened. The Ferrari Purosangue, the new SUV that was recently spotted with some spy shots, and, just about the Ferrari Lineage and whatnot. So let's talk a little bit about PDR or Paintless Dent Repair. So Cristian here is actually certified for PDR, and so is Frank, the owner of the shop. So tell us a little bit about the process of actually getting certified to do Paintless Dent Repair.
Well, myself and Frank both went to BMW training for the Paintless Dent Repair, which is a really cool, course to take. It's obviously offered through the certification where BMW is certified, like I mentioned in the first podcast. So yeah, basically they have a bunch of classes with a few guys, from each certified center in the area, and sometimes the courses are with guys that are local. Some of them are guys that are from all over Canada and USA. So fortunately, I was able to go, and it was really cool. It was in Wixom, Michigan, and once again in South Carolina at the BMW Performance Facility over there. And they teach you how to estimate small damage, medium damage, and they also teach you repair techniques to remove dents without painting the vehicle, which is really cool. And so basically, like Kegun said, PDR is Paintless Dent Repair. So there's a few different methods that you could use to remove the dents. One of them being our favorite, which is glue pull. So essentially you have a glue tab and with a glue gun, and you use special glue for automotive related repairs. And you glue the tab, glue it to the damaged area or the dent, and let it dry, and then you have a slide hammer which you use to remove the dent from the panel. And this is really effective, especially if it's a collector car or you just don't want to get your car painted in general. It works really well, especially if the paint isn't cracked. A lot of times if the paint's been cracked from the dent, then you're going to be painting it anyway because you're going to pull paint as soon as you pull the dent. But it's a really good method, and it's very effective. There's a lot of technique to it. It's very time consuming, but the result is spectacular. And I'll have Kegun post some pictures, some before and after pictures of some of the dents we've done here at the shop. But it's really good. Like we did one on an Aston Martin V12 Vantage S, and for those who know what that is, it's a collector car. And it looked like it had a door ding. You could see the crease right on the quarter panel. It looks like someone might have opened their door on the car, and it's unfortunate because a lot of times modern cars with quarter panels, you're blending. So a quarter panel repair would be a paint job to half the car, essentially, by the time you get down to it. So on a car like that, to paint half the car is kind of, upsetting for the owner, especially if it's not something that they did. And with the PDR methodology, you avoid all that, and you get just as good of a repair, if not better, because the car is undisturbed and you're still keeping all the factory paint, primers, so on and so forth. So it's a really good repair technique. And it even goes beyond PDR because you can use that for damage-related repairs. So rather than using welders and burning, E-coats, metals and stuff like that, rather than using your typical repair methods, the glue pulling is not intrusive. So therefore, you're getting a corrosion-resistant repair and a higher quality repair. So yeah, we swear by it over here. And like I said, you'll be quite impressed when you see the pictures that Kegun posts.
Yeah, as you talked about with it, like on the V12 Vantage S, it's important for owners like that to have the option for PDR because repainting the car loses its value. And if they do PDR, it's unrecognizable to the new owner.
Absolutely.
It keeps the car OEM, which is really important for new buyers and prospective buyers. So
yeah. And I would even say that glue pull is probably the superior method for PDR, because a lot of times you see these guys with the rods, and sometimes some guys go as far as drilling holes into panels to be able to access the dent with the rods. But when you're drilling holes, you're distorting the original metal, and you could be reducing the rigidity of the original panel. And the problem with the rods too is, if say you're going in on a door skin, well, what you're doing with that rod is you're scratching the whole backside of that door panel that's covered in E-coat. So if water or moisture gets in there, it's going to rust. Whereas glue pull, it's only on the outside of the dent, only on the outside of the panel, and you're not intruding on anything. So it's a very, very good methodology of removing dents.
Yeah, so you talked about the rod pulling. What other methods are there, generally speaking, for removing dents?
It's typically rod and glue pull are the two main methods. Like I said, we specialize in the glue pull because we've done it that way, and we believe that it's the superior method because it's the least intrusive and you're causing the least damage to the surrounding panels.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, again, yeah, I'll put up some photos of it. The car looks just as good as new. You can't notice it. It's pretty cool how that whole process works, and you can remove the dents without any damage to the vehicle. And again, it's important, super important for, say, collector cars or anything like that, to make sure the car stays OEM.
It's very time consuming, and that's why a lot of times, you see, it's not a cheap process, but if it's, important to you and you don't want to paint your car, then it is a very, very effective solution.
Yeah, 100%. So let's move on to the Barrett Jackson Scottsdale, Arizona auction that just passed in March. So as I don't know if many of you know, but the Barrett Jackson is one of the most famous auctions in the world. It's takes place in Scottsdale, Arizona, and they do different car collector cars or memorabilia pieces for automotive history that they auction off, and then are also pretty famous for their charitable auctions. I know they've done over 100 million in charitable sales, which is really impressive. A lot of manufacturers like Ford, GM, other automotive manufacturers, will give their first VIN vehicle, like just past the Hummer EV. VIN 001 sold for $2.5 million US for charity, which is crazy. I don't know many people who are buying Hummer EVs for $2.5 million.
Well, I guess it's kind of cool to say that you have the very first one.
Yeah, and it's going to a good cause too. Again, they do those ones for charity. They also sold the first VIN Bronco two-door for $1.075 million US, as well as this wasn't charity, but this was pretty cool. Carroll Shelby's 427 Super Snake Cobra sold for $5.5 million US.
I think that sold more than the previous Cobra at the last auction.
Yeah, I believe.
I can't recall.
I think it was around 4 million.
Yeah,
3 to 4 million.
It was around there, but it was a blue one.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, Cobra prices keep on climbing. That's crazy. I know a couple of years ago, I was just looking around at different cars, and they were going for in the 1 to 2 million range, and now they're up to 5.5 million US, which it's a huge number for a Cobra. It's impressive that those are going for that much. But yeah, no, the Barrett Jackson Auto Show is super cool. It's been going on. It's definitely one of the oldest auctions around. And they have some of those amazing cars. I know a Pista went through there for around 500 US and stuff. So that was pretty cool watching that.
Yeah, it's definitely an experience. If you ever get the chance to go down there and check it out, I highly encourage it.
Yeah, no, I've seen some of the guys in my car club, they go to that auction or check it out, buy cars from it. And
it's not just limited to cars. They have,
yeah, just like memorabilia and stuff. So they'll have old gas tanks or just
gas
different
pumps,
signs.
Yeah. Even model cars, the options are endless. If you love cars, or even just the vintage era
automotive
of
history,
collectibles,
really. Yeah,
automotive history, it's an awesome place to go.
Yeah, we know a couple local guys here who have collections with neon signs and the old vintage signs. Even Frank himself, he has an old which sign is that?
Gas pumps and vintage signs.
Yeah, which is the sign that he has in LaSalle?
Sunoco.
Oh yeah, he even has one of those. And yeah, it's pretty cool watching all these sales and how dedicated people are to automotive history. It's super cool, and especially being, Windsor is an automotive-based city, and we have some collectors who collect stuff like that, and I love seeing like how it all ties into their collection. They personalize it to their own. Even the guy here locally, he has Ferrari dedicated section, Ferrari Maserati. He's got the American classic cars. It's super cool how they kind of tie everything in with the old vintage shines, and I love watching these auctions.
Well, and it's good too because they do educate you. Like before the auctions start, they go through a lot of the cars and the history, and they talk about production numbers and the evolution of how the model came about and so on and so forth. So, even if you're new to the auction scene or the car scene in general, it's a good place to go just to learn.
Yeah, exactly.
As a beginner. There's a lot of good information on there.
Yeah, they have like descriptions of each part or each car, where they come from, like the history of it and stuff. So I know a lot of like historic cars go through there, like Carroll Shelby's Cobra, but and even
back
celebrity cars.
Back in the pre-COVID days, they'd even do interviews with owners and these guys that have these crazy collections, and it's really nice to see.
Yeah. And then let's move into the Ferrari Purosangue. How do you pronounce it? You're Italian.
Purosangue.
Purosangue, which means pure blood in Italian. So some spy shots of that recently came out, and it looks like basically like a modified Levante, but they're testing more of the internals. We don't really know much about the car because Ferrari has not released any information. They're pretty good with keeping it under wraps, but supposedly it'll be the base model a V8 hybrid, and the top end model will be a V12 hybrid. But back in 2017, Flavio Manzoni, who is the Ferrari senior VP of design, said they will not build an SUV, and that Enzo would turn in his grave if he ever saw Ferrari making an SUV.
Well, I don't know. Being a Ferrari enthusiast, I have to say, I want to disagree with that point, because Enzo Ferrari always did anything to support his racing division.
Exactly.
So if that meant selling road cars, if it made money, he would do it as long as it supported the racing division. So if you look at it like that, and you think, well, okay, they're going to start selling an SUV, that's going to be mass produced. Well, I don't know how mass produced it's going to be, because at the end of the day, it is a Ferrari. There's only so many people who can afford them. And B, if it is making profit to help support the racing division, well, I still think that's a win.
Yeah, exactly.
For them.
I mean, that's even if you watch Ford versus Ferrari, Enzo, like the whole Ferrari team talked about that they just needed money for the racing team, and that's why they were about to sell out their production.
They didn't really care what had to be done as long as they had the money to support the racing division.
Exactly. That's why, originally back in the 60s, they had plans to actually sell the general production of Ferrari to Ford. But and then Fiat came in and obviously bought that. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, based on the few pictures that were posted online, it does look like Levante.
Yeah.
Which is not a bad thing, because the Levante is not a bad looking SUV. But, I think Ferrari will do something with the look of it to make it their own.
100%. That's more testing the internals of the car, and, they're actually, Ferrari's really good at that, keeping the cars under wraps. Like, man, they really go all out with the camo on the cars when they're testing them and everything, and put different bodies on them to like throw people off and everything. But so eventually, I think by 2025, they should be releasing their first fully electric vehicle, which will probably be a variant of the Purosangue. How do you pronounce it again?
Purosangue.
Purosangue. It'll probably be a variant of that. And they've also been testing. There's a LaFerrari test meal going around. So if you don't know about the LaFerrari, that continues in the lineage of the Ferrari supercar. So it started with the 288 GTO, then went to the F40, then the F50, then the Enzo, and now the LaFerrari. But the LaFerrari was released back in 2013, 2014. So it's about time that they're...
It's hard to believe that car's been around for that long
such
already.
A beautiful car. Yeah. It looks so... And, I mean, performance-wise, it's still one of the top dogs. And that car is almost a decade old, and it still looks like it just came off the production line. It's a beautiful car. That was it's actually a V12 hybrid, but back in 2013, 2014, McLaren released the P1, Porsche released the 918 Spider, and Ferrari released the LaFerrari, which is kind of people call it the holy trinity of hypercars. And but yeah, I'm excited to see where they're going to go with this. No, like nobody really has any idea what's going to come with this car. I'm assuming it'll probably be a hybrid, being the LaFerrari is a hybrid, and their new SF90 is hybrid as well.
Yeah, that seems to be the direction of all the high-performance manufacturers.
Exactly.
Like I said, it's not a bad thing. It's
Yeah.
really good because you get the best of both worlds. You get a clean, efficient vehicle, but you still get the gas motor that
Yeah.
makes beautiful noises
Yeah,
that we
which-
all know and love.
Which Ferrari kept with the LaFerrari. They've got a V12 hybrid. It's pretty cool. Of course, they kept the V12 in that thing. But
Hopefully they continue to do so.
yeah, fingers crossed. That would be pretty cool.
The odds are not in our favor.
But yeah, the lineage of that car goes from the 288 GTO, the F40, the F50, the Enzo, and the LaFerrari. What's your favorite out of the Hyper 5?
Oh, that's a tough decision, but I'm gonna have to say the LaFerrari.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Mr. Ferrari enthusiast likes the hybrid.
What can I say?
I got to go with the F40. That's actually
I thought you meant out of the McLaren P1.
Oh, no,
the,
no.
oh,
Actually,
no.
out of those three,
Out of
918.
those three, I would say the Ferrari. But if we're talking historical Ferraris, I would say probably F40 or F50. I think I'd go with the F50 just because I like the rear mid-engine V12.
Yeah, and convertible too. Hear all those sounds.
Yeah.
That sounds like an F1 car, literally.
And it's, we had this discussion before. I think the F50's quite underrated
Oh, yeah.
and underappreciated.
100%. Everyone, I mean, me personally too, I love the F40. That's probably my favorite out of the 5, but the F50 is definitely one of the underrated cars in the Ferrari lineup. Like rear or mid-engine V12, rear-wheel drive, convertible, like it's a pure driver's car. But the F40, that's probably my favorite out of the 5. That was the last car that Enzo actually worked on himself. And it's kind of funny, when he was building that car, he said he didn't really care about aerodynamics, yet that was the most aerodynamic car that time. It's a Ferrari way. But yeah, actually out of the Hyper 3, so you take the LaFerrari over the 918 and P1?
Yeah.
Man, I got to go with the 918. 918 is just
You know what does it for me?
V12.
The V12. That's what does it for me.
Man, I mean, the 918 sounds good, and some of them, like, there's videos of them actually shooting flames because it's got a top-mounted exhaust.
Oh,
But,
don't get me wrong. I mean, the other two are stunning cars.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be happy with any one of them, to
Yeah.
be quite honest. But if I'm being picky,
Yeah,
I'd probably number it. I'd go number 1 Ferrari, number 2 Porsche, number 3 McLaren.
yeah. Actually, the LaFerraris, out of all three, they did appreciate initially, but the 918 and the P1 are kind of stagnant with pricing, but the LaFerrari just keeps climbing. Does not stop. One went up in Montreal.
And the Aperta even more.
The Aperta is, so LaFerrari made 210 of the LaFerrari Aperta. There was 499 plus one for charity of the just normal coupe LaFerrari. But the Aperta, one just went up for sale in Montreal for 6.9 million Canadian, or well, almost 7 million. It was 600.
That's crazy. What was the list price on that car?
2.4 US.
Not a bad investment.
Doubled your.
Yeah, whoever's selling that one's doing well.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Actually, there's this guy in Montreal. He's got, I think, 5 or 6 Pistas, 3 LaFerraris, a couple TDFs. He's got over 10 G-Wagons. He's a huge Ferrari collector out there, but he's doing well in those investments too.
No
Buying
kidding.
3 LaFerraris.
Yeah.
He's doing well. Yeah, but at the end of the day, it is kind of surprising that Ferrari did go with the SUV, but I mean, it makes sense. It's just a moneymaker.
100%.
Yeah, Lamborghini did that recently with the Lamborghini Urus, which has been selling like crazy. Like, oh my, they're everywhere now. Even in winter, there's like 5 or 6 driving around, which is...
I think that's the most mass-produced Lamborghini in history.
Yeah, it's got. I'd assume so.
Yeah.
Or if it isn't yet, it's on the way to be, because
Yeah.
I mean, it's an SUV. It's just if you look at, I mean, you went to Miami before COVID, and they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Literally
Oh, yeah. They're like dime a dozen.
everywhere.
You can't.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. It's like a Volkswagen Touareg out
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Even
or
in
Tiguan, sorry.
yeah, even in Toronto. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
They're just a dime a dozen. So it does make sense that Ferrari is going to go just for like a financial perspective. It makes sense that they make an SUV. But yeah, I'm curious to see where that's going to go and how that's going to turn out. Because, yeah, again, the spy shots, which we'll put them up on screen, it looks like a modified Levante, but again, they're just testing the internals. So once Ferrari actually has the body style set out, I'm curious what it's going to look like.
I'd be curious to see what they're going to do with the design language. And
yeah.
you know, you look at a lot of the concept photos that you see on Google Images, and you kind of look at it and you're like, hey.
Yeah.
Kind of looks like an 812, you know.
Yeah.
On steroids.
Literally, yeah, just an inflated 812.
Yeah. So hopefully they don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, but even Ferrari has been kind of going quote unquote soft with their cars, even with the Portofino, the Roma. Actually, the Roma is a cool car.
Yeah, Roma's a really
that.
beautiful car.
Yeah. That's kind of like they're continuing the lineage of the California, the Portofino, and now the Roma.
But you can definitely see how they're trying to project themselves more towards, you know, the mass market and sales and trying to get the numbers up more than they ever have, really.
Yeah.
More demand than supply.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%. But now, it seems they're going more supply route than demand, but they need the money. So it makes sense. So yeah, that was a little bit about the new Ferrari Purosangue.
Purosangue, right? You have to say it like an Italian.
I'm not, unfortunately, but yeah, that's a little bit of information about that and just like Ferrari history. And if we get any more updates, we'll definitely keep you guys updated on the podcast. So make sure to check in each week because we want to definitely follow this and see where it goes. But so check us out. Check out our website, formulafirstcollision.com. Check out our social media tags, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. It's all just at Formula First Collision. But yeah, thank you guys for watching.
We look forward to talking to you guys next time.